Good evening. We're going to call our general session back to order. And we will begin by having a roll call. Ms. Sawyer?
Dr. Denaldo Robinson?
Here.
Ms. Sharon Warden?
Present.
Mr. Archuleta?
Present.
Mr. Jimmy Houston?
Present.
Mr. Walter Jolly?
Present.
Ms. Pam Pereza? Present. Dr. Sheila Williams?
Present.
The superintendent's report will be given during our personalized education report committee. Entertain a motion to approve the minutes for August 24th and September 19th.
I move that we approve the minutes for August 24th and September 19th.
Second.
Been properly moved and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye with roll call. Ms.
Aye.
Sawyer?
Sharon Warden?
Aye.
George Archuleta?
Aye.
Virginia Houston?
Aye.
Walter Jolly?
Aye.
Pam Pereza? Aye. Dr. Sheila Williams?
Aye.
Thank you. We will now have public forum. Those citizens who have submitted comments. Ms. Sawyer, would you read those comments for us?
Our first comments this evening is from Destiny Barrera. Dear Elizabeth City, Pasquotank County board members, I am a teacher at Pasquotank Elementary School. I have a few thoughts that I would like the board to consider as they discuss Governor Cooper's latest executive order and make a decision on our district's reentry plan. The past few months of virtual learning have definitely had its challenges. I recognize that virtual learning is not an ideal situation, and it has caused families and staff members to struggle with childcare and other issues. I also recognize that our students miss the normalcy and refuge of coming into the school building. However, I have concerns that I feel need to be considered equally when deciding our next steps. The board chose to accept the plan of virtual learning for the first 9 weeks, due largely to the lack of resources needed to function under the new safety guidelines. It was stated that we lacked enough janitorial staff, nurses, and substitutes to run a hybrid model. I do not believe that we are ready or equipped to return to face-to-face instruction without these positions being filled first. Vacant positions will leave schools without the support needed to keep buildings sanitized properly, thus risking exposure to staff and students. For the last 2 years, we have also shared one school nurse amongst multiple schools. I do not believe this will work with the new restrictions and guidelines that have to be followed when students show any symptoms of COVID-19. We will need full-time nurses at all locations to assess and monitor student health. Finally, our lack of substitutes willing to come into the building during this time will leave administration and teachers scrambling in the event that a teacher is out sick. New guidelines will not allow for classes to be combined as they have been in the past when a substitute could not be secured. The restrictions for being allowed in the building, such as no fever or other visible symptom, will most likely increase the need for substitutes. In addition, the likelihood of teachers and whole classes having to quarantine for the recommended 2 weeks due to exposure to COVID-19 is high, as seen in other schools that have already returned to in-person learning. While we want to return to a sense of normalcy and routine for our students, bringing them back to the classroom only to have to return to online learning sporadically will produce the opposite outcome. In addition to the concerns I have already listed, I respectfully request that the board consider the following questions prior to making their decision. I believe that we owe it to our community to be able to answer these questions with confidence and a secure plan in place before approving any reentry plan. The questions include: is the district able to provide paid sick leave in the event that a staff member contracts COVID-19 or is exposed and forced to quarantine? What if they have to quarantine multiple times? Many have 10 days or less of sick time, especially new teachers. How does the board advise we distinguish between a common cold and COVID-19? If a staff member runs out of sick days, will they stop getting paid? What if they have to care for a sick family member? What if their own child's school closes or they have to be quarantined? Will they lose their health insurance while being sick? Will student attendance continue to be waived? Students are not being penalized for attendance, nor should they during these times. Will teachers? Will teachers continue to be evaluated this year? Will teacher efficiency be linked to state tests that are holding students to arbitrary grade level expectations they cannot meet right now? If health guidelines require that teachers are to remain seated behind a plexiglass barrier, how does the board recommend that teachers handle teaching for the proposed 8-hour day? How does the board recommend that teachers continue to provide small group instruction and the one-on-one support students need without the teacher or students leaving their designated area? If we are in the classroom full-time, how are we expected to console a crying child from 6 feet away? What if our students can't tie their shoes or button their pants? What about when students fall and get hurt? What if students engage in physical altercation? How do we help them from 6 feet away? How will class lists be handled in the event that only portions of the students decide to return to the school building? Is there a procedure ready for the event of a student developing a fever or other COVID-like symptom during the day? Are there available substitutes in the event that a teacher discovers that they have had a fever upon entering the temperature check station? Does every classroom have the space to separate desks by 6 feet? How are students receiving required services? Are those teachers coming into classrooms, contaminating each room, or are students leaving the classroom going against least restrictive environment requirements? Will students be required to Zoom their resource teachers from their classroom? Will this be distracting? Students will not be allowed to share materials. Are there funds available to provide needed materials? Is there enough funding to provide cleaning supplies such as Clorox wipes and hand sanitizer for every classroom all year long? Will PPE be provided for staff and students? What policies are there for students who forget to bring their mask or refuse to wear one? Our buildings are old and we often deal with broken AC units, etc. How is the board ensuring proper air ventilation in our classrooms? If families are given a choice between remote and in-person learning, will immunocompromised teachers get priority? What about those caring for immunocompromised or elderly family members at home? Will teachers be forced to choose between their jobs and their lives? I admit that we cannot stay in virtual mode forever, and there are benefits to returning to face-to-face instruction. However, I think that we owe it to our students and community to only return when we have the proper equipment and are fully staffed and ready to handle all possible outcomes. Thank you for your time and consideration as you make these impossible decisions. Our next comment comes from Sharon Tendlock. Hello, everyone. I hope you are all safe and well. My question pertains to the school schedule for elementary students. I have a student and I've heard that when school returns, students won't be able to have normal recess. Will have to wear their mask all day and can't move freely like they would if we weren't faced with this horrible COVID-19. What will the new school schedule look like? When creating the school day, please consider elementary students. How can kindergarten, first, second, or third grade students sit in a chair all day? Please be realistic. Consider our remote students who could possibly have to sit at the computer for hours. Please put yourself in the students' and teachers' shoes. Please be mindful of our teachers and students who've already gone through so much. School is not the same, so please don't treat the school day like the students are doing normal things. I hope you all consider shortening the day and making it realistic for everyone. Thank you. Next is from Tiffany Lewis. She has questions. Will there be shields on all student desks? If desks are 6 feet apart, will students be required to wear their mask while sitting at their desk? Will there still be recess? How will bus schedules work, and what time will school start? From Heather Perkins. Questions. What will the guidelines and/or restrictions be for face masks? Will there be certain styles not allowed? Will there be any restrictions for colors or prints? Chair Robinson, that concludes the public comments.
Thank you, Ms. Sawyer. Many of those concerns will be answered later on in our meeting, so thank you. We will go to our agenda items. And Committee Chair Sharon Warden, the Finance, Business, and Technology Systems Committee.
Thank you. First on our schedule is Dr. Robinson for the NCSBA Board of Directors nomination. Dr. Robinson.
Thank you. The North Carolina School Boards Association has requested that we submit a candidate for a board position, talk with board members, and Ms. Sharon Warden would like to be nominated and recommended for that position, and we think that she would be an excellent choice. So we put together an excellent letter of recommendation toward that end, and what I would need is action from the board to approve us recommending her to be a candidate for one of the board positions.
I'd like to make a motion that we appoint her for the position.
Motion's been properly moved and seconded by Mr. Archuleta. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye, according to roll call. Ms. Sawyer?
Sharon Warden,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Walter Jolly,
Aye.
Pam Peretta, Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on with our agenda items with Rhonda James Davis, our Chief Human Resources Officer.
Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, and Chair of this committee. I have before you the maintenance roof report. Have any questions? If none, I'll go on to the surplus request for approval.
This is an action item, so if anyone has any questions or concerns, please share those at this time. There doesn't seem to be any concerns. Could I have a motion so that we can take action on approving the surplus request?
I move that we approve the surplus request. Second.
Thank you. By roll call, please.
Karen Morton,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Walter Dolly,
Aye.
Pam Pereza, Dr. Jill Williams.
Aye.
Okay.
And then, we have the, back when we voted on the school calendar, the early college had a graduation date up there, but we have to change that graduation date. And so I'm bringing that back to the board for approval since it was included on the, original calendar that you voted upon. That new, date for the early college graduation is May the 21st.
What was the old one? Do you remember? 14th. All right, so we need to take action on this item as well for the ECP early college calendar. May I have a motion?
I move to accept the ECP early college revised schedule. Revised calendar.
I second it.
Okay. May we have a vote on that? Ms. Sawyer?
Karen Morton,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Walter Dolly,
Aye.
Pam Pereza, Dr. Jill Williams.
Aye.
That's it for you, Ms. Davis. Thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from Ms. Haynes, our Chief Financial Officer, about a Dell quote.
Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Superintendent Edmonds, and board members, good evening. Committee Chair Warden, Finance is requesting approval to purchase laptops from Dell. The quote is in your packet, attachment FG205. The quote is from state contract 2148, and an additional discount was negotiated by our technology department. The purchase will be funded by Federal CARES Act funds and capital technology funds. Are there any questions? If there are no questions, then that concludes my request.
No questions, no concerns, so we need a motion to take action on this. And I do want to extend a thank you to the technology department for their negotiation efforts. Any little bit that will save us helps, so thank you very much for that. I need a motion to approve this quote.
I move that we approve the Dell quote.
A second? Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded. We need a roll call vote. Thank you, Tammy.
Karen Morton,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Walter Dolly,
Aye.
Pam Pereza, Dr. Jill Williams.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Haynes. That concludes our business. Thank you, Dr. Robinson.
All right, thank you, Ms. Warden. Next, we have our personalized education, Mr. Walter B. Jolly.
Okay. Personalized education, we will have Bert Lane speaking to us. Is Bert here?
Yes, sir. They're pulling up the presentation now. Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Dr. Edmonds, and board members. I'm here with you tonight to present a Title I overview. Next slide, please. Tammy, next. Thank you. The 2020-21 plan is based on data from a needs assessment that we completed in August of 2020. A public notice to review the plan was advertised in the Daily Advance for September 8th and 9th as required by federal regulations. Each school receiving Title I funds has their school plan embedded in their comprehensive school improvement plan. And the plan has been preliminarily reviewed by our Title I state consultant. Next slide, please. Before you now, you see the goals of the Title I plan, and I will go through what those goals entail. The first one, dealing with curriculum and instruction, we reduce class sizes by funding teaching positions in all Title I schools. We support work with teachers in their professional learning communities, and we increase instructional resources that are provided to all of our Title I schools. The innovative and continuous training goal targets professional development for teachers and administration in all Title I schools. A part of that is AIG support and training that will be given to all of our teachers. The next goal is district-wide parent engagement. And under this goal, we fund the Parent and Family Center for the school district. We provide resources for that center. We also provide professional development for families, and we're focusing heavily this year on our Spanish-speaking community and providing outreach to them. The new teacher support goal, we provide mentor stipends because our mentors spend a lot of time helping our beginning teachers. We provide professional development for our beginning teachers. And we also provide increased instructional supplies for beginning teachers as well. Implement support programs and service to meet the needs of children and youth. This deals with our McKinney-Vento students. So under this plan, we provide resources, and we also provide transportation for those students should they need that. Utilizing student achievement assessment data to improve future practices and outcomes. Under this goal, we support small group instruction, professional development, and resources. And we also fund a student attendance counselor for the district. And those are the goals of our Title I plan. Any questions?
Is the mentorship for the entire year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Lane? Thank you, sir.
And we are requesting that action be taken on this item tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any actions to be taken on this plan tonight, or?
Yes, we want to go ahead and ask for a vote on this item.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye according to roll call.
Sharon Warden,
Aye.
George Archuleta,
Aye.
Virginia Houston,
Aye.
Walter Dolly,
Aye.
Sam Pereza, Dr. Sheila Williams.
Aye.
At this time, we'll have Dr. Catherine Edmonds, Superintendent, Elizabeth City Plan for the Personal Remote Instruction.
Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, board members, and our community members that are with us this evening. First, before I get started, I would like to say thank you to district administration and to the principals for their hard work on looking at the feasibility and the possibility of having students return back into the classrooms. I'm sure we're all well aware of the governor's announcement that said that districts can move forward if they felt that they were in a place to be able to do so. And so since the pandemic has begun or started, there have been many challenges in our school district, as it has been in districts across the country. And I would like to say thank you to our community and our parents and our students, not only for their support, but for their perseverance through these tough times. And so I will begin the presentation this evening, but we will also have district administration as well as some of our staff members presenting as well. So as we started looking at what's our thoughts and our plan, and what do we need to consider as we think about moving forward? And we are in close collaboration with our regional health department, the Albemarle Regional Health Services, as well as the ABC Science Collaborative, which is a team of epidemiologists and pediatricians and infectious disease doctors that work at Duke to give us some advice and some thoughts about how we should approach this plan. And I'm going to grab my glasses that I left here. And I wanted to remind everyone of what the plan options are. So Plan A is the least restrictive plan, and it is the one where you can bring all students back into the school building, looking at minimal social distancing and very relaxed safety protocols in reference to Plans B and C. And Plan B is the hybrid, and that gives us the opportunity to provide some face-to-face for those families who would prefer face-to-face for their student, while at the same time having our students whose families have chosen remote option to stay in remote status. And then we have the option C, where all students would be in remote status. And so as we look at these plans, I do want our families that have chosen the remote status piece to know that that option will be out there for them in the plan that's being proposed this evening. And so as we were planning and thinking about how do we move forward, we looked at each of our schools, and the governor's orders were around K-5, so the elementary schools. But we also know with pre-K that once you start face-to-face with your other students, that you have to include them. And so when we look at Central Elementary, you can see, if you look at grades K through 5, and we looked at the number of classrooms that they have at each grade level, then the number of students per classroom. And that number of students per classroom is the number of students that you can have in that classroom and be socially distanced. And we know that the 3 Ws are the ways that we mitigate the spread of COVID. And so when we look at Central, we see that we have, for kindergarten, we have 3 classrooms that can hold 8 students per classroom based on the social distance guidelines. And that gives us a capacity of 24 possible students that can go into the kindergarten area for Central. Right now, we have 36 families who've chosen some face-to-face for their student, which would make Central be over the number of students they can hold by 12 for kindergarten. And I'll just go down the slots available. And so when you look at first grade, you see there's 8 over. For second grade, 6 over. Third grade, 6 over. Fourth grade, 6 over. And fifth grade, 1 over. Now go to the next slide and look at J.C. Sawyer. And for J.C. Sawyer, you can see based on the number of classrooms and the number of students each classroom could hold, and that includes having an adult in that classroom as well. So the adult has been taken into consideration. So for kindergarten, they have 5 slots that would be available. For first grade, 1, second grade, 0, third grade, 2, fourth grade, 0, and fifth grade, 0. For Pasquotank Elementary, same data set. And the same categories that we're looking at, and their data set reveals that when you look at the current number of students whose parents have chosen some face-to-face instruction, we can see that they have 10 in kindergarten, 9 in first grade, 3 in second grade, 22 in third grade, 8 in fourth grade, and 9 in fifth grade. So with that current number of student count for parents who want some face-to-face, the slots available, we have 14 for kindergarten, 21 for first grade, 17 for second, 8 for third grade, 22 for fourth grade, and 21 for fifth grade. When we look at Weeksville Elementary, same categories. And when we look at slots available based on classrooms and number of students that can fit in those classrooms with socially distanced, we see in kindergarten, based on what the number of parents that have requested some face-to-face, they have 0 slots available in kindergarten, 6 over in first grade, 2 for second grade, 1 in third grade, 5 in fourth grade, and 8 in fifth grade. For North Side, looking at the same data categories, we have kindergarten, they have 4 slots available. First grade, they have 8. Second grade, 5. Third grade, 10. Fourth grade, 2. And fifth grade, 10. We look at PW Moore and the slots available. We have 4 in kindergarten, 12 in first grade, 3 in second, 18 in third grade, 14 in fourth grade, and 9 in fifth grade. In Sheep Harney, for kindergarten, they're over 4. First grade, 2. Second grade, they have 3 slots available. Third grade, 0. Fourth grade, 2. Fifth grade, 3. And I've included the middle schools in here as well. And when we look at those and the slots available, and I'll talk more about the proposal for middle school, but you can see that for sixth grade, the number of students whose families have asked for some face-to-face is 47. For seventh grade, 56, and eighth grade, it's 41. And for Elizabeth City Middle School, we have the current student count, 53, whose families have asked for some face-to-face for their student, 70 in seventh grade, and 45 in eighth. And so thinking about what a proposed timeline could be and what a phased-in approach could look like, and we are looking at pre-K 12 for pre-K in elementary, which would be K5, looking at potentially October 19th as a start date. For middle school, looking at November 2nd as a proposed start date for middle school. In high school, a proposed start date of November 9th. And I have to say before we move forward is that what school will look like will be very different. And the high school, we know that that schedule is a very challenging schedule to try to get students in. So I just want everyone to be aware that it won't look like the school that we knew of prior to March 13th. And so looking at a proposed weekly schedule on the next slide, it could potentially look like this, where pre-K have in-person and remote, so those families who've chosen remote instruction, and students whose families have asked for some in-person face-to-face instruction, those students will be on the campus on Monday and Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday, with Wednesday being a remote instruction day. Same thing for elementary, where we would have those students whose family requested some face-to-face be on the campus on Monday and Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday. Middle school could potentially have a cohort A that would go on Monday and Tuesday, and a cohort B to be on the campus on Thursday and Friday. And for high school, you can see that we have like the first block on Monday, second block on Tuesday, third block on Thursday, and fourth block on Friday. But I also have a star beside that because all courses from first block would not be available, or all courses from second block would not be available. Administration would have to share with the students what are the course offerings that they can have some face-to-face with on the campus. And there are several reasons of why that could potentially be that way. And we'll talk more about that as we move forward. Well, maybe I better talk about it now because up next is pre-K. And so some of the things that we've been discussing and that we have to consider, as you've seen that some of the classes in terms of the number of classrooms that are available when we look at available space and the number of families that have requested some in-person or on-campus instruction, in some schools that will be challenging because we are over in terms of space. And so that would mean that some of those students would potentially be at another school to receive that in-person or face-to-face instruction. And we did discuss that early on as we were doing town halls with parents back in the summer, that could potentially be an issue. And so, and something that has been seen not just in North Carolina, but the number of retirements that are occurring now, as well as we have some staff members that are medically vulnerable, and so they would not be able to teach in the face-to-face environment. The numbers that I've shared with you this evening, these are teachers who have said they want to be on the campus. So we have 2 schools where the majority of their staff has said they want to teach face-to-face. But we see that that is not the case at every school. And so just something to consider as we are moving forward. And I just want to make the board aware of what some of those challenges could potentially be as we look at what would be a start date for our elementary schools, or that phase-in approach that I discussed. So now I'm going to have our different director of pre-K will talk about what a daily schedule will look like for pre-K. And then we'll have a principal that would do the same for elementary, middle, and high school. So Ms. Lee, if you can share about pre-K.
Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Board of Education members, and other families joining us. This is the proposed schedule for the pre-K program for parents who have selected the face-to-face option. As Dr. Edmonds shared, we would like to have a cohort A, which would have face-to-face instruction on Monday and Tuesday, and remote instruction Wednesday through Friday. Cohort B would operate in remote status Monday through Wednesday and have the face-to-face option on Thursday and Friday. Can you click the proposed pre-K schedule, please? The proposed pre-K schedule will follow a typical preschool day, beginning at 7:30 a.m. and concluding at 2:15 p.m. The proposed schedule includes arrival, breakfast, and activity centers, morning routines and circle time, activity centers, small group instruction, music and movement. In the middle of the day, they will have a lunch period, followed by story time, structured learning activities, recess or gross motor time, rest and quiet time, activity centers, and then we would conclude our day with a summary of the day and the dismissal. Once we arrive back on campus, we are expected to adhere to all child care guidelines required by the licensing division of the Division of Child Development and Early Development. Again, we are proposing the cohort A and B schedule for 7:15 a.m., 7:30 a.m. until 2:15 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lee. And we're going to have Ms. Ambrose. We're going to come back to pre-K because Ms. Lee, I also want you to share what it would look like if we did not have the cohort A and cohort B, but all students coming Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. But we're going to move to elementary. We'll come back. Ms. Ambrose?
Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, board members, and Dr. Edmond, along with the community that is watching us this evening. For our elementary schools, we have two cohorts. Cohort A for Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday will be a sanitizing, deep clean day with remote learning for all students at home. And Thursday, Friday, we're proposing a cohort B. We look at how many students have requested to come back on our cohort B.
Ms. Ambrose?
Yes, ma'am.
My apologies. I put the wrong slide in there for you. And we should be looking at the one that's in person for all students, not a cohort A and a cohort B. So I apologize for putting that schedule in there.
That's okay. So at this time, at each school, we have a different set of numbers for the cohorts or for all of our students that are requesting to come back. So if we look at each school at this time.
Miss Ambrose. I don't have I don't have access to the file, so I can't show them right now. Can you just walk us through it?
Okay. So Central Elementary School has 162 students that have chosen Plan B. J.C. Sawyer has 147 students that have chosen Plan B. Northside Elementary School, 183 students. Asquetank Elementary School, 85 students. P.W. Moore Elementary School, 128 students. Chief Harney Elementary School, 75 students. Wicksville Elementary School, 120 students. The numbers that I've read to you are the number of families or students that have requested to come back on campus. Our start time that we are proposing would be 9 o'clock for face-to-face instruction. Our end time would be 2 o'clock.
Okay, Ms. Moore, if you would share out with for the middle school.
Okay. Good evening, Board Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, board members, district officers, family, and guests. For the screen. River Road has 144 students that have requested Plan B. And Elizabeth City Middle School has 168 students that have requested Plan B. We are proposing a cohort A and a cohort B. Cohort A students will come Monday and Tuesday, and cohort B students will come Thursday and Friday. Our students would arrive on campus at 8:45 to eat breakfast in their classrooms, and instruction would begin at 9 o'clock. Our students would leave for the day at 1:30 to continue asynchronous learning until 3:30 that afternoon. Our remote students will join the face-to-face students in instruction each day. So for example, our Monday and Tuesday students that are in cohort A, all students that are in cohort A will have face-to-face instruction, or I'm sorry, will have instruction with their teacher. And then on that Thursday and Friday, those same students would be in small group instruction remotely with their teacher. And so all students will be in instruction from 8:45 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. That concludes the report from middle school.
Thank you, Principal Moore. We had a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Do you need me to do it again?
No, we'll go to the high school. Ms. Principal Fife.
Good evening. Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, board members, Dr. Edmonds, district officers, and guests who are listening in on the meeting. I'm presenting for high school, and if we could move on there. Okay, so we'll start with ECPPS. We have two groups, one of which are freshmen. They will arrive at 8 on Monday and Tuesday mornings. They finish their learning at 3:30 for face-to-face learning time. The actual class time runs from 8 until 2:45, and then they have asynchronous learning until 3:30 every day. Wednesday and Friday are both remote days, because on Thursday we have a different group that comes in for face-to-face learning from 2 until 3:30. And the reason it is so late in the day is because those students have classes with COA instructors during the day, and the 2 to 3:30 time frame is their normal class time, and that is the only class that they have with our ECPPS instructors. And we have students who have requested that face-to-face time. So in order to accommodate all of our different groups who have classes with our ECPPS instructors, this was the schedule that benefited all of them and kept everyone safe at the same time. The other two high schools, Northeastern High School and Pasquotank County High School, will follow a schedule that has Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday as block 1, 2, 3, and 4, as Dr. Edmonds said previously, with Wednesday being a remote learning day. Their face-to-face instruction starts at 2:10 and ends at 3:50. 9 to 12:30, 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. is synchronous learning for students on those days. And then remote learning on Wednesday begins at 8 a.m. and ends at 3:30 p.m. And I believe that finishes up the high school.
Thank you, Principal Fife. And Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, board members, I apologize. I put the wrong slide in for elementary. It will not be a cohort A and a cohort B. It would be the students whose parents have chosen face-to-face that will be on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We started out with the cohort A and cohort B and shifted. And so I put the wrong slide in, so I apologize for that. Now we're going to have Ms. James Davis share with you all some pieces in her team around the operations for our proposed plan.
Before we do that, are there any questions for the superintendent from the board?
And I'm gonna go back up. It doesn't, I'm okay with either way.
Let her finish first.
Yeah, she's gonna do hers and then we're gonna.
So, good evening again, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Mr. Jolly, who's the chair of this committee. As you can see, we are preparing for the time when our students are ready to come back to campus. And so we have this return to campus guide. And when we developed this book, safety was of the utmost importance. You can see the contents that we have there. There are topics that are of interest to, to our staff and as well as our families. Parents, when students return, you will receive this form, and this is a parent statement of compliance, and it has to be signed prior to any of the students, your child returning for in-person instruction. This form will acknowledge that you have read and reviewed the expectations for in-person instruction with your child, and you intend to make sure that your child complies with all of the safety protocols that's in place. And again, we're doing that for your child's safety and others as well as our staff. And so next you will hear from Ms. Amanda King. She's our Director of Transportation, and she will share some of the plans that we have for transporting our students when the time is for them to return to the buildings for face-to-face instruction. Following Ms. King, you'll hear from an update from our Child Nutrition Director, Ms. Tammy Reinhardt.
Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Dr. Edmonds, and board, family, and community that are watching tonight. In regards to transportation, we plan on having bus monitors on every bus from pre-K through 5th grade. The attestation forms will be collected at the bus stop prior to arriving and getting on the bus. We're going to have one student per seat unless the child lives in the same home. That's according to guidelines that are brought down by the CDC. We're going to load the bus from back to the front, alternating the sides to eliminate walking past other students. The masks are going to be required. A assigned seating chart to assign students 2 seats is going to be required. Students will unload the bus at the school from front to back, alternating the sides as well. And the driver and the monitor will sanitize each seat between and after all runs. So when they're finished with their run and go back out to do another one, the seats and any high traffic areas will be sanitized.
Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Dr. Edmonds, and board. We are looking at I don't think I have any notes here. We are looking at students being served breakfast and lunch using prepackaged meals. We will prepare and prepackage our meals in the cafeteria and deliver those to the classroom via insulated carriers. Each meal will be a unitized meal, and we will continue our virtual learning pickup on Mondays, just as we have been throughout what we're doing right now. But those students that are in face-to-face learning will be provided meals via the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. James Davis, Ms. King, and Ms. Reinhardt. We've had several parents to ask us, what does it look like in the classrooms? And so we've put together a video to share what some of the safety protocols that will be put into place. And some of you have seen the classrooms. And so we should have a video that's coming up now.
In Elizabeth City, Pasquotank Public Schools, we pride ourselves on making safety our #1 priority. In this video, we will give you an experience of what instruction will look like in our district. Hello, my name is Denavo Robinson, and I am the chair of the Board of Education. I bring you greetings today on behalf of the board. As we prepare for in-person instruction for parents who have selected that option, this district has worked diligently to ensure safety for returning back to campus. Facilities are clean, social distancing is marked throughout campuses, and the face coverings will be available for everyone and worn in compliance with health and safety guidelines. Buses will transport our students, but the same safety protocols will be in place, such as social distancing, sanitizing, and the wearing of face coverings. Returning to campus will take much commitment from students whose parents have selected that option, as well as our educators and staff. We strongly encourage everyone to do their part in abiding by the safety guidelines that must be followed to ensure safety for all. As the opportunity to in-person instruction takes place, the district and schools will communicate specific information to families who have children returning. I cannot stress enough the importance of families and schools working together now more than ever before to make ECPPS a strong, safe, and positive learning environment for everyone. Parents, we want to thank you for all that you have done and all that you are continuing to do. Students, we thank you for your resilience, making change from the classroom to the cloud. Principals, teachers, staff, thank you for implementing this process and doing all that we need to do to help make ECPPS stronger.
Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Edmonds, the proud superintendent of Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools. It is an exciting time for Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools as we complete the final touches in preparation for students to return for in-person instruction. We have missed our students so much and look forward to seeing them back on campus. We realize this is not the option that has been selected by all parents, and we will continue to provide remote learning for students whose parents have opted for remote instruction to ensure we are meeting the needs of all families during this time. Being back on campus will look very different than before. No matter the difference, it will be great to have students and staff together, learning and interacting in person, with the sound of voices and laughter filling schools once again. Parents, words cannot express the appreciation we have for you and your support in understanding through such unprecedented times as we have and continue to experience. We need your support as much as ever as we prepare to embark on the next leg of this journey. It will take all of us working together to maintain safety on our campuses. Thank you for entrusting us with the care of your children, and thank you for being an active part of ensuring the safety of your children, other students, and staff. Together, we are ECPPS Strong.
Keep your distance. Stay 6 feet apart from the person ahead of you and behind you. We have markers in the hallway to let us know where we will stand when we are going towards our bus. This is the same directional hallway. We will go in one direction in the building at all times. Our nurse will be on wheels to prevent our students from moving in the hallway. In our isolation room, we have a face shield, gloves, face mask, and a gown to be used as needed by the staff member that is in the room with the student. We have desks in here for the students to use as they are waiting for their parent to pick them up at the back door. The students will not go back through the building. They will exit through the back door after the office has checked them out with their parent. Each classroom has a room capacity sign to let us know how many adults and how many students can go in this classroom and be 6 feet apart. Our students will be reminded to know your 3 W's. Wear a cloth mask over your nose and mouth. Wait 6 feet apart. Avoid close contact. Wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. Each classroom will have a hand sanitizing machine at the door for the students to use as they enter the room. Each classroom will have a wash your hands or use hand sanitizer by the sink, along with the soap and paper towels. Every classroom has 2 boxes of tissues hanging up so that the students may take 1 tissue at a time as needed. The teacher's desk is placed at the front of the room facing the students. She has enough room behind her desk so that she can stand up, teach, and write on the board. A safety glass has been installed on her desk to avoid projectiles as she's teaching.
Just going to highlight a few things that we are doing to protect our students from COVID-19. The first thing that we have is a plexiglass, and that keeps the teacher and the student safe when doing small group instruction. Each desk is separated by 6 feet. Each desk also has some bins in order to keep personal items.
Our special needs classrooms have face shields for the teachers to protect their eyes. They also have a sanitation station near them to use as needed. All students will have their workstations with them on the other side of the safety glass. There's a pass-through section so the students can pass their work to the teacher. Safety is our top priority at ECPPS. We have our students spaced 6 feet apart, front, side, and behind them.
Hello, I'm Rhonda James Davis, Chief Human Resources Officer for the Elizabeth City Pasquotank Public Schools. We are pleased to share with our families and community next steps as we prepare for in-person instruction. Safety is of the utmost importance to ECPPS. This includes safety for staff and students. We need everyone's support and commitment to ensuring we are providing a safe, positive, and engaging learning environment. Students returning for in-person instruction will adhere to safety guidelines as follows. Students must be socially distanced from others at all times. Face coverings must be worn at all times, except when eating or drinking. Staff will provide specific instructions on when students may remove face coverings. Hand washing is imperative. There will be opportunities throughout the day for hand washing and sanitizing. Attestation forms must be completed daily prior to arriving at school or boarding buses. The forms will serve as a bus pass for students to board school transportation. Temperature checks will be completed daily prior to entering school or facilities. Parents, you will receive a parent statement of compliance that must be signed prior to your child returning for in-person instruction. This form acknowledges that you have read and reviewed the expectation for in-person instruction with your child and that you agree to ensure your child complies with the safety protocols. Thank you.
At this time.
Are staff to have to give a South what I want a South form every day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyone that enters the building will have to do the attestation form.
Can you go over the start times and ending times for each? Because there was some confusion.
Yes, I can do that. Let me pull it up here. So the start time for the regular school day for each of our schools will remain the same. It's the time that they will be on campus. Let's see. So for pre-K, it would start at 7, the face-to-face on campus would be 7:30 a.m. to 2:15 p.m. Elementary would be 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And actually, the elementary is 8:30. Is it 8 or 8:30 to 2:35? We changed that time. I think it's 8:30. This was the old slot that I put in, so I
So start
apologize.
time is 8:30 for elementary.
Then we started it earlier, Rhonda. Miss James Davis is going to get the, oh, actually, Miss King could answer that because we changed it because of bus transportation.
Okay, please start over again.
Okay.
And tell us the
So,
time one more time.
okay, so for pre-K, it's 7:30 to 2:15. For elementary, it's actually 7:45 to 2:30. For middle school, it is 8 a.m. I'm sorry, excuse me. Start time for face-to-face is 9 a.m. for middle school. And end time is 1:30. And for high school, so for the early college, on Monday and Tuesday, the face-to-face time when they're on campus will start at 8 a.m. and end at 2:45 p.m. And on Thursday, the face-to-face starts at 2 o'clock and ends at 3:30. For the high schools, Northeastern, and let's see, the face-to-face will start. So the actual class time starts at 2:10, but they will get on campus in time to eat lunch first. And then it would end at 3:50.
That's each day?
Yes, that's each day. And they will actually get there in time to eat lunch each day. Okay, so for elementary, it is 7:45. They will start teaching at 7:45. Thank you.
Okay, and is Pasquotank County High School the same,
Yes,
2:10 to 3:50?
yes. And they'll both get there, like I said, in time to have lunch before they go to class. So they'll have lunch in their classrooms, but they will get there in time to have the lunch.
Okay, so you're saying instruction starts at 2:10?
Yes.
So what is the arrival time?
The arrival time, let me go to their schedule, is, 1 second, I've got to go back to their Plan B schedule. Yeah, but for the lunch time, the lunch is earlier.
Would it be 1:45?
No, I think it's actually around 12:30, but I wanted to
Okay.
make sure. I didn't want to give you wrong information. We'll look that up and get it for you, Ms. Warden.
Okay.
Let's get the email here. And if the principals are on there, Principal Moore, Ms. Fife, can you answer that while we're looking what time the arrival is for Pasquotank and Northeastern?
Hi, yes, I was just talking to Principal Cobb, and she said it's 1:30 for lunch and 2 to 3:30 for class time. So the instruction starts at 2 and the dismissal is at 3:30. So lunch is 1:30.
Thank you.
Is that the same for both schools? Pasquotank as well?
I believe it is, but I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to go back and look at an original document, and I can do that.
We'll just get
Dr. Edmonds, this is Principal Moore. It is the same for both schools.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, let me ask you something while we're on this.
Okay.
Is this going to be a required arrival time, the 1:30 for every student?
So for those that are riding the bus, they will get there at 1:30. And so if students are driving at the high school, they can get there at the start of their class.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You know what? You can take this one because I have this one on.
Dr. Edmonds, I was wondering if you could clarify. Am I on?
They said yes.
Okay. I was wondering if you could clarify about the high school courses. I think I understood what you meant, but I'm not sure if it was clear. You said that school would give the students and the parents the schedule or the option to go in person if that course was offered, but it doesn't mean they have to change the course. It just means that they may not have the option to go in person because if it's a science class first period and there's not an in-person instructor for that class, the class would remain virtual.
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to clarify it because you wouldn't be switching courses. You would stay with the same course, but you're going to, you will have the option to go in person if the instructor is in person.
Right.
In the building. And so, in other words, just like if a child or student was taking an online class through COA or through another platform, then they would just remain at home.
Right.
On block, the day for block 2.
Yes.
Okay. My other question was the reason for waiting for middle and high school to go back. So you, on the slide, it said November 2nd for middle school and November 9th for high school.
Yeah, so we can have a chance to phase them in to make sure that we have any transportation concerns squared away prior to them. So it'll be a phase in, get our elementary kids in place, and then bring in our middle. So just to have some lead time, because this will be something very different. And we anticipate that there may be some hiccups and we would need to take care of them. And we didn't want to have that like district-wide and be able to focus.
And that is also following the governor's recommendation, is that correct, for beginning K-5?
Yes, so with the governor's orders, K-5 could start as early as October 5th. But in looking at ensuring that we have our transportation and everything in order, we wanted to wait until the beginning of second 9 weeks. And so October 19th is the beginning of second 9 weeks for us.
What determines when a kid shows up and getting ready to go in school and that you're gonna put them in isolation? What determines?
So if they're showing any signs of COVID, any of those warning signs, or if they have a temperature, we're going to have the walkthrough temperature checks. And so if they have a temperature, they would go into the isolation.
That's what my concern is. Back on transportation. If you go pick up a child and they do have these symptoms, and they have it, they're already going to be put on the bus, and they got to travel with these kids already. And you know you're going to isolate them already. I mean, you don't know, but once they get to school that you see it, they're going to be isolated. I just think that we should, I don't know, think about that on the bus, you know, for the beginning. I know we can't leave the student at the site, But, I'm just wondering if there was something we could do. I don't know. I haven't thought of, you know, is there a way we could put a sheet of plexiglass or something on the back two seats and allow that child to ride back there, you know, while they come up, or bring the rest. But I just don't see if we're gonna take the temperature, and that's gonna be one of the parameters we look at to isolate them. And then we're gonna go through the process of who they've been in contact. So what I'm saying is, if it starts at the bus, you know, in the very beginning, that we see there's a problem, is there a potential that we could minimize the amount of kids that are gonna be, you know, affected by it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mr. Archuleta. And I've checked in with the doctors, the healthcare professionals, and Ms. King and I had a conversation about it as well and talked about what could it look like to isolate students, have some type of isolation on the bus. And the healthcare professional said the main thing is to make sure they have on masks, that they are socially distanced, and that they are washing hands. And Ms. King, you'll have to answer the piece about putting the plexiglass on the bus.
Yes, of course. That is actually a guideline from the builders of the buses, that it is a federal guideline actually that we are not allowed to alter. So plexiglass is not allowed to be put on any bus.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just want to add to what Mr. Archuleta said. I'm calling you a doctor, Mr. Archuleta. And I understand that. Just in my mind, I can't figure out how we could do that without having a delay in buses in the morning or afternoon, traveling, getting to school, because that will mean checking temperatures each day. If children are at a bus stop and the parent's not there, and if you check the temperature and the child has a temperature, the bus driver will have to wait until parent can come. So just trying to figure, I agree with you and I understand that. I just can't figure out how we can make that work.
Yeah, and it's been recommended not to do temperature checks at the bus
Right,
stop
that's
because
right.
of the fluctuation of the actual thermometers, that it would
Right.
not give a good reading. And so, yeah, we talked about that.
Ms. Houston?
No, I was going to say, I thought the recommendation was not to do temperature checks at the bus stop.
Well, that was my concern though, that I know that what the recommendation is. What I'm just saying is, I'm just looking at, I'm wondering if a parent has a child and they find out that child was riding a bus with somebody that had a temperature of over 100 degrees in the beginning, and yet rode all the way to school. Could that create a problem? I don't know. Maybe it won't. I'm just wondering.
Well, I don't know how they would find out, for one thing. And the other thing is, I was told that because of the fluctuation that could happen on the bus, because of the temperature outside and maybe the temperature on the bus, that would be the reason, and therefore you wouldn't know that a child had a temperature while they were on the bus. I thought that's what that was going to
And maybe that's what he said, but it's just a concern of mine.
Okay, I understand that. I do.
And the students will have their temperatures taken at the front door of the school or just inside the front door.
Right, just in front.
And that benchmark temperature will be what?
100.4 is what the guideline says. And we also know that sometimes someone will have have COVID and not have a temperature.
Any more questions? Okay, at this time, we'd like to recognize Tammy W. Sawyer, Director of the Community Schools Executive Assistant to Superintendent and Board Education number. Take it away.
Any other questions for Dr. Edmonds and her staff before we leave?
I had a question about the teachers, and I want to make sure I understand. There will be teachers who will be conducting remote instruction, correct?
Yes.
And the teachers who will be conducting face-to-face, will they also be responsible for remote instruction?
So for part of their classroom, the part that's the students that are home, they'll have the computer set up. We've ordered, or we're ordering cameras. I don't know where we are on those little cameras, but right now it will be their laptop. And so while they are teaching, the students at home will be able to see them teaching the class.
Okay. Are they going to be given some time before the start date? For example, we have a proposed start date for elementary school for October 19th. Will there be some time given before that date to allow the teachers to prepare?
And so if you're talking in terms of preparing their lessons,
yes,
we've asked teachers to make sure that the lessons that they prepared can be virtually or online. And so, could be face-to-face or
yeah,
online.
I know what you mean.
Yes.
Okay.
And the questions with regard to teachers with doctor's notes and how that impacts their leave time, that's all been explained to the teachers so they know what they're facing.
So as we're having the staff town halls, that's typically one of the questions that's always brought up. And Ms. James Davis has been responding to those. And we also have a staff guidebook that has the information in it as well. But yes, and it can get a little confusing because we had the emergency leave. Now we don't have the emergency leave. And if a healthcare professional or the health department says that you need to be in quarantine, that means something different than, and then we have the infectious disease policy. So there are several, but it's all online in our guidebook. But yes, we have been sharing that with staff.
And that's one of the things that could possibly affect student placement. That is in terms of where teachers, in what schools teachers are available.
Yes, and so if our teachers have a medical condition and they have medical documentation, and one of their accommodations is remote learning, then that teacher is not available to be on the campus to teach. And so, right, that means that could look very different. So at the high school, that class would be offered virtually. At the elementary school, it could mean that your child may have someone different on the campus if that teacher is teaching only remote.
I have a question to kind of clarify. So if a student is in a school that, you mentioned there were slots that were open, and they chose C, and now they want to go to B, if there are slots open in that school, will a parent be able to change their mind?
We've asked parents to wait until the end of first semester. And the reason we've asked is because of the logistics of transportation.
Okay.
There are many logistical pieces that go on behind the scenes. It's not as easy as saying, oh, we have a slot, you can go in it. I wanted to make the board aware of where there were openings, and what we would do is if we have a school that's over, we would shift those students to that school. We do know we have a population of parents that the principals have tried to reach and they have not been able to reach them, and they were sent correspondence saying that they will be in Plan C.
And on the flip side, if a parent chose option or in-person, face-to-face instruction, but now they see the plan and it doesn't work for them, or can they choose to go back to 100% virtual?
They can choose to go back 100% virtual. And we've had this discussion about, do we allow parents to change their minds now? But as you can see from our schedule, from our schools and how many slots are available, some of our schools just have no room for additional students to come in.
But if, let's say, I give the example of myself, if I chose in-person instruction for my children, and now I'm saying, well, this doesn't work for us, I can go, I can stay in, I can switch from in-person B to C. And would that be for the duration of the rest of the semester?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yeah, it will be for the remainder of the semester.
Okay. And if we vote on this tonight, this plan will remain in place for the rest of the semester, or will there be a time where we would revisit how things are going?
That's a good question. Well, I certainly would think we would want to revisit, but that would be up to the board.
And in what time frame will we revisit this to determine, that's a question I have for the board as well.
I would think that we would want to get monthly updates on how things are going, and based on that, we could decide what we need to do to move forward. I would love to see monthly updates so that we're aware of how things are going. Definitely by the 3 sections, we would love to see it by school.
And I'm sure that depending on what the decision is this evening, that we will probably have some staffing, some things that will come in terms of medical documentation. And I would certainly want to report that out to the board and let our families know that there could be a possibility that if you're in a school and your child's teacher's not there and that teacher has to be remote, I want to reiterate that you could potentially be at another school.
Right.
Because we have a school that is over.
Any other questions for personalized education?
I'm thinking back about my question with the changing of minds. So if I'm thinking in the older middle and high school, we did mention that those classes would look like the teacher would be in person with the students in the class, and the online students would be online at the same time.
To be able to be that.
So they're viewing the instruction that's going on in the classroom.
Yes, and our teachers also have been recording those as well and putting them online, because some students, depending on what their circumstances are, have to go back and look at it later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions about personalized education? Any other questions? So we've come to the end of that committee report, and we would need to take action on plan for in-person remote instruction. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we follow the recommendation of the superintendent for the instructional plan as presented by our superintendent.
The motion, we need a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion?
Just clarifying that we want to revisit this on a monthly basis, you said, and get feedback on whether things are going well or not, and how we would need to have ongoing discussion on changing or adjusting the plan.
We want to know before November 9th, right? See how the K-5 goes, and then before November 9th, that way we know how the others are going.
Well, we'll be meeting in October.
Yes, I was just meaning after all the grade levels are phased back in. We'll revisit.
I'm not sure I'm hearing. So are we asking that we add to the motion that we'd like to have a review period?
No, he just asked for discussion, and that was the
Okay.
question I asked.
So that is something that we would make sure that we do.
Okay.
Have every month, we will have an update, follow up on status report of how things are going.
Pam just wanted to kind of verify that.
Yeah,
clarify.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion, any other questions or comments?
I just have, I want one more clarification on instruction as far as a student who has chosen to remain in remote at the middle school or high school level. We are saying that they will stream in with their class at the time and receive instruction at the same time that those students who were face-to-face are receiving it.
Right, and that would be for the ones whose teachers are teaching on campus face to
Right.
face.
Okay. And if, for example, there is a student in that particular class who does not have the ability to stream in because of the lack of internet access at home, how will they receive that instruction? Will they be required to go somewhere where they can log on to that, or will it be recorded so that they can access it later at a later time when they're able to get somewhere where there will be availability? How is that going to work?
Yeah, so what currently happens if a child does not have the accessibility to actually stream in, it can be recorded. So some instances it is, and sometimes we have students whose parents ask for paper packets. And so they can get those packets and return the packets. Dr. Spencer, did you want to add to that? Oh, I saw you looking at it. If you want to add something, okay.
I'm sure you would kind of address
Okay,
that.
at this
but we
time,
haven't addressed it.
This is an important decision. So I want to make sure the board feels that they've had ample time to ask their questions and share their comments. Any other comments or questions? Hearing no more questions or comments, we will have a vote on this by roll call. Ms. Sawyer?
Sharon Warden,
No.
Walter B. Jolly,
No.
Pam Carretta,
Yes.
Mr. Archuleta,
Yes.
Ms. Houston,
Yes.
Dr. Shuler.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries. Mr. Jolly, I think you've already asked for Ms. Sawyer to make her presentation.
6-2. Okay, at this time, we'd like to recognize Tammy W. Sawyer, Director of Schools for Arts, works with glasses. Tammy Sawyer, Director of the Communication Schools, Executive Head Assistant Superintendent, and the Board of Education. Would like to recognize.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Robinson, Vice Chair Warden, Committee Chair Jolly, Superintendent Edmonds, and board members. I come before you this evening to request the board review the following policy updates as recommended by the North Carolina School Boards Association, considering approval during the October meeting of the board. Policies include 1320/3560, Title I Parent and Family Engagement, 3102 Online Instruction, 3405 Students at Risk of Academic Failure, 3470/4305 Alternative Learning Programs Schools, 4110 Immunization and Health Requirements for School Admission, 4120 Domicile or Residence Requirements, 5040 News Media Relations, 7360-8225 Crowdfunding on behalf of the school system, 7805 Superintendent Evaluation, and 8350 Fixed Assets Inventory. No action is requested this evening, and that concludes the policy updates for tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jolly. Appreciate your policy committee report. Thank you. We now have our excellent educators. Ms. Pereza. Need a second? Properly moved in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye according to roll call. Ms. Sawyer.
Aye.
George Archuleta.
Aye.
Virginia Houston.
Aye.
Walter Jolly.
Aye.
Sam Pereza. Aye. Dr. Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Pereza. Before we do our board member reports, Dr. Edmonds, did you have anything that you wanted to add with your superintendent's report?
Just wanted to say, Dr. Robinson, Chair, Vice Chair, Board, and board members, that you all have been receiving the Community Connections document that goes out every Friday, and it goes to the community, to the board, to our teaching staff. And in that, we do have recognition of staff members. So just be on the lookout for that, and we're pleased to be able to provide that on a weekly basis. And it has our beginning teacher of the year in that as well. And if anyone who would like to nominate or recognize a staff member, or a staff member that would like to recognize a community partner for the work that they are doing with the school district, we do have those nomination forms on our website. So please look at them. If you have someone you'd like to nominate, please do so. Thank you.
Thank you.
That has been a really rewarding feature. It's just great to see that, and that we're doing that at this time. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing.
Board member reports? Anything a board member would like to say at this time?
I'd just like to say, I'm happy to see that we're really protecting the kids. And we're doing everything that we can to protect them, but also making sure that we're interested in their education. And I like that.
Good point.
We're going to have to make a lot of moves, the fast that we can make them.
Good point, Mr. Jolly. Thank you. Anyone else? I just want to continue to thank the parents for just working through this very weird time. I have two grandchildren, one's in kindergarten and one's in second grade. And I've been working with them from time to time. And I always have had a lot of respect for teachers. But after working with them for a couple of weeks, I really have respect for what the teachers have to do. So I want to thank the teachers for all that they do. This is an interesting time. So we'll keep on moving forward. It's very fluid, but we're going to work through this. Any other board member reports or comments? Any other issues to be brought before the board this evening? Hearing nothing else? Good. Anything else? Nothing else? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.